Hello, lovely. Hello. I'm just making sure that everything is all okay. Oh, hello. There's somebody in YouTube. Hello. Right. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is June Allen from juneallen.net, and I teach Black women how to heal from the impact of racism and self-hate through racial sobriety and personal empowerment. So thank you for joining me today. Today's topic is all about saying yes to you. Yes to you, yes to you, yes to me. So before we get into the content, I'm going to just share a little bit more about my story for those of you that don't know my story. So I've been into don't know that don't know my story. So I've been in 12-step recovery since 2009, from addiction to self-hate myself, codependency, dysfunctional relationships, all of that good stuff, all of that terrible stuff. But actually, it was a gift because I went into recovery in 2009 and I went through an amazing process that taught me about boundaries, that taught me about how to take care of myself and all of that good stuff. And I went through the process, had a great sponsor, and finished everything. And then afterwards, I realized that what was missing was the cultural context. The cultural context, in the sense that I didn't really understand about what it means to love myself as a black woman. I didn't understand what it mean to understand that, you know, the history of my ancestors and all of that kind of stuff, how the pain that they went through, how that context played a role in who I am today. So, you know, the recovery process, the initial recovery process that I went to, was able to allow me to take off some of the layers. And the work that I do is now about bringing in the cultural context. So with the work that I've done, the books that I've read, I've done some training as a psychotherapist. I'm still in that process. And yeah, just the continuing ongoing journey that I've done. I've, you know, taken everything that I've learned in recovery, in the studies and stuff that I've done, and I've turned it into a system where I'm able to teach other black women about the power of racial sobriety and what it means to truly love yourself as a black woman. So that's a bit about my story. So before we get into the content about 5 steps to how to say yes to you, we're going to go through a bit of housekeeping. So, housekeeping, book club. So the Sacred Sister Book Club, the Sister Circle Book Club, with Bell Hooks, is the new date for that is the 24th of November. And we've also got the December date as well, which is the 8th of November. So I'll bookmark that one as well, if you've been coming to some of the other book clubs. So I'm excited about this one on the 24th of November. It's the second session. So we'll be studying chapter 1. We've been through the introductions and stuff and had loads of conversations about that. So we're going to be studying chapter 1 on the 24th of November. So looking forward to that. The Bell Hooks book that we are studying is Sisters of the Am, Black Women and Self-Recovery. And it's been a really interesting read for a lot of us, because some of the stuff we agree with, some of it we don't. But what we've been doing is we've actually given ourselves the opportunity to really dig in and see how a lot of that stuff kind of relates to us as black women and how it applies to our lives today. You'll also receive heart work as well, which is homework. So you get like a series of questions specifically related to the chapter that we've read. And yeah, so you can continue the conversation on a little bit more. There's a private Facebook group and a private WhatsApp group if you're not on social media. So you get the opportunity to really dig in and yeah, just explore the questions and explore yourself and do it in an environment that's very safe and very boundaried. So yeah, so that's the book club that's happening on the 24th of November and the 8th of December. If you click the link in the bio, if you go to heal.juneallen.net, there's more, you can find all the details about the book club there. The second thing that I wanted to tell you about is it's my birthday next Tuesday. It's my birthday on Tuesday. It's my birthday on Tuesday, and I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be 50. And I'm excited because I'm at a really good, I'm at a really good place in my life. I'm at a really, really great place in my life. And So yeah, so I wanted to share, part of that journey with you all. So, I'm doing a series of lives from now and right up until Tuesday. I'm going to be doing a series of live streams that are kind of related to self-love, kind of related to, a lot of the tea around, how I managed to kind of, look so young and stuff at being 50. Because the first thing people sort of say is like, oh no, you're not 50, no way, all the rest of it. Yeah, and so I just want to share it. I want to share, some of the things that I do, the stuff that's kind of helped me to kind of, stay looking so young at 50. So if you go to heal.juneallen.net, there's a link there. There's a video there as well that I posted today, and yeah, there's a link with all the details and stuff. But I'm going to be sharing 50 super sassy secrets of how I've managed to maintain my serenity, my sobriety, how I've basically got to this point in 50 years. So I share lessons, I share what I eat, I share tools for racial sobriety, I share so many different things there. So yeah, and so yeah, in addition to the live streams I'm going to be sharing now is this thing that I've shared, the Freedom 50 is called, Freedom 50 series. It's going to have all of the tea in there about, what I've been able to achieve, and what I'm going to be sharing with you about how you can actually use those same tools and use it to apply it to your own life. So that's me about my birthday. So looking forward to, hearing your thoughts on that. Looking forward to doing the live streams and stuff with you and just hanging out. So it'd be good. It'd be good fun. So that's that. The last thing that I wanted to share, number 3, is Christmas is just around the corner. If you live in the States, you've got Thanksgiving just around the corner. So there's a lot of talk about the holidays, and there's already been lots of, anxiety around family members and all of that kind of stuff. So I also wanted to use the space to talk about that, to talk about what you can do, how you can set boundaries for yourself, how you can enjoy the holiday period without sort of having to go through the difficulties, the challenges with the difficult family members, and guilt tripping and all that kind of stuff, all that really difficult stuff that it's hard to talk about around this holiday time. So if you've got any questions or anything you'd like me to talk about on the live streams that are related specifically around challenges that you have around the holidays, then email me at info@yardofgreatness.com, or you can direct message me or leave a comment below, and obviously I will collaborate those questions and make them part of the lives. That I'll do an Ask June series. If you do hashtag Ask June, you'll get a few things that will come up where people have asked me loads of different questions. So yeah, and I don't, it's all done confidentially as well, so you don't actually have to say your name or anything. You can just DM me and I'll do the live on the question, but I never reveal names or anything like that if it's something really, really personal. So just send me a message and we can take it from there. So that's all the housekeeping, or the yard keeping as I should call it. So now we're going to get into the tea. So let me just quickly reset. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is June Allen from juneallen.net, and I teach black women how to heal from addiction to self-hate with racial sobriety and personal empowerment. So we are going to talk about the topic today, which is 5 steps to say yes to yourself. Yeah, 5 steps to say yes to yourself. And I thought, with the whole thing about the holidays and my birthday and all this stuff going on, saying yes, or learning how to say yes, is an important part of being happy. It's an important part of celebrating who you are. It's not always about what other people want you to do, but the expectations. It's about what you want to do for yourself. What makes you happy? And it's not a selfish thing. I'm not saying that in a selfish way. It's about not abandoning yourself. There's a difference between, being in a space that feels nurturing and abandoning yourself. And I'm talking about, making sure that you are in a nurturing space, wherever possible, being in a nurturing space. So that's essentially what I want to talk to you about today. So essentially there are, let's have a look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 P's. 6 P's, actually, so there's 6 steps, not 5, it's 6. So the first one is to be present. You need to be present to what the yes is. What does the yes mean? What exactly is the yes to you? And I say that because there are so many ways, or people have so many different interpretations as to what the yes means to them. And sometimes for a lot of us, if we're so used to saying no to ourselves or other people saying no to us, we don't know what yes means. We don't know what yes means to us. It took me a long time to understand what yes means because I was so used to saying no. I was so used to saying no to myself or other people saying no to me that I just found it really hard. I found it really hard. I didn't know what yes to me meant. I just knew that I found it difficult to say no. Hi, Howard, lovely to see you. I just knew that I found it really hard to say yes to myself and say no to other people. It's just really, I just found it really, really painful to be able to do that. So, in order to begin this process of saying yes to yourself, hi Liz, oh, all my ladies are on tonight, so sweet. In order to be really clear about, what yes means to you, you have to get present so you can begin to first understand, what it means. What does it mean to you? Is it me time? Is there a specific event that you want to go to that you're not sure if anybody else wants you to go to? Do you kind of feel maybe a little bit ashamed because you like it and maybe other people don't like it? And do you feel, a bit weird about sort of doing it for, going to do it for yourself? Are you finding it difficult to say yes to yourself in relationships? Are your relationships always about the other person, about the other people? These are all things that it's really important. Before you can say yes to yourself, you've got to be clear about what yes means to you. What does it look like? What's the specific thing that you need to say yes about? I think for me, a lot of the thing around yes is about just saying yes to being seen, yes to honoring who I am, just allowing myself to show up as myself. I think ultimately is what saying yes to me means, because that in of itself can mean so many different things. That in of itself can mean so many different things and can mean so many different, it covers quite a lot of things, because when you say yes to yourself in the sense that you want to show up as yourself, then it means that you don't need a long list of things. You don't need a long list of things to kind of understand what yes is, because once you first understand that yes is about being able to show up as yourself, then you need to, having boundaries around other things is gonna be much easier. Let's have a look. So Liz is saying, thanks for being so transparent about yourself, June. There's a real sisterhood here, and that is in itself is us all saying yes to ourselves and honouring each other. Oh, that was so beautiful, Liz. Oh, thank you for saying that. And it's true though. It's true though, because, it's hard for us as black women as well to say yes to ourselves. Let's be honest. It's so hard for us as black women to say yes to ourselves, because we're last on the list. A lot of us are last on the list. And I remember seeing a speech by Malcolm X, and he was talking about the black woman being the most disrespected person on the planet. And I think we accept a lot of it. Maybe not consciously, but I think a lot of us accept it. I know I have. Let's have a look. So Howard was saying, oh my gosh, this is me. I'm getting better, but I find it so hard. I always feel guilty when I say no to someone or cannot fulfill their expectations. It's terrible. I get so self-critical. I need to be brave. This is all comes down to, I talk a lot about codependency and stuff. Thank you for sharing that, Howard. And it's good that, to have other people on the broadcast kind of, identifying with what I'm saying. That we just feel so bad about letting other people down. We feel so bad about showing up as ourselves. Like somehow showing up as ourselves is like like some sort of disease. It's some sort of disease if we choose to show up as ourselves. And it's hard. It can be hard, when we first start doing it. But in order for us to really say yes to ourselves, it's important for us to really get honest about these conversations about, what is our yes, and being honest about the fact that we find it hard, being honest about the fact that it is painful, and kind of asking ourselves those questions around why we find it hard. And quite often, I know for me, growing up in an environment where I was told, where there was a lot of no, or deprivation, at some level, just meant that I got to the point where I didn't even ask. I got so scared of the no. That I just, I got to a point where I'd almost trained myself not to have any needs, or I'd shame myself for having any needs or wants, or wanting somebody to say yes. I was so terrified of the no, because it always felt like it was a no, that I just stopped asking. And this is something, as an adult, as a grown woman, that sometimes I still struggle with. I find myself getting resentful with people before I've even asked a question, because I'm anticipating that it's always going to be a no. Does that make sense? I'm anticipating the no before I even ask the question, so I get pissed off with that person. And that person hasn't even said nothing yet. I'm anticipating it's going to be a no because I'm so used to the no. I'm so used to saying no to myself that I'm having to retrain myself to receive the yes. So this is why, the first stage in this process around saying yes is about just being present and starting to get honest about what yes means. What does yes mean to us? So the second thing that we need to do, this is me. Oh, I'm really hoping that you're going to get something out of this today, then, Howard, because it's just, it's an epidemic. The yes, the no to ourselves is an epidemic that needs to be stopped in this moment. So the second thing that we need to do to say yes to ourselves is be clear about what we actually want. So we're present and understanding, being clear about what does yes means to us. Now we need to actually, plan out what it is actually that we want, we need to, we've got to find the courage to ask. We've got to find the courage to ask. My business coach always says that you need to get your ask in gear. ASK, you need to get your ask in gear. She always says that because a lot of times we are afraid to ask. So we're afraid to plan. We're afraid to plan for the yes because we're scared to. We're scared to do anything different. But we have to make a decision. When we plan to do something, it means that we make a decision to do something. It means saying yes to, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And we write it down. I'm going to say yes by, number 1, I'm doing my birthday thing. Number 2, I'm going to say no to this person about X, Y, and Z. Number 3, I'm going to go and learn A, B, and C skills so that I can say yes to myself about A, B, and C, or whatever it is. It's about the planning. You've got to plan and decide, how you are going to execute the yes. Execute the thing that you now understand what yes is about. So that's number 2. Number 3 is I love this one. You've got to position yourself for the yes. You've got to position yourself for the yes, because sometimes saying yes is scary. Saying yes is really scary. And so you have to be honest with yourself and say, do you need support around saying yes? And I know it might sound really, really over the top to some people to say, do you need support in saying yes? But sometimes we do. And I'll explain to you what saying yes to me quite often means. This is some of one of the tools that we use in recovery quite a lot, actually. And we do a lot of bookending, And what bookending means is, if I'm really scared to do something, which is usually something that means yes to me, yes to myself, or yes to something that's going to benefit me, or the bookend process is that you contact somebody before you do it. You might just call somebody initially just to thrash out what the fears are about, And then once you've thrashed out the fears and you've made a decision you're going to do it, I might send a text message before. I might say, oh, I'm going to call this person now and say no about X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And I'm going to message you when I've done it. So in that sense, I'm getting emotional support from that person who understands why I feel scared to say the yes to myself and no to the other person. And then when I've done it, then I text them or I call them and then talk out what happened. What happened when I said no? Did I feel really guilty? Did I feel bad? Why did I feel bad? How do I feel? What does it feel like to say yes? How does that feel? And it's just nice having that bit of extra support. It's nice having that bit of extra support from somebody who's going to understand your anxiety and not judge you for the anxiety, and then help you, just basically hold your hand through the process. Hold your hand through the process. And it might sound, I know I said this before, it might sound really over the top, but trust me, especially in the early stages when you're first learning to say yes to yourself, that process, that bookending process, has been actually really valuable. It's been really, really valuable to me, and it's been really helpful because, number one, if I tell somebody else I'm going to do something that I'm scared to do, I'm accountable to that other person now, so I have to do it. I have to do it because I've already said to that person that I'm going to do it. So I have to do it now because I've already told that person I'm going to do it. We don't have to, but when you're held accountable with something, it's just, there's more kind of like, there's more chance that you're going to do it if you've told somebody that you're going to do it. And then afterwards you do it, and it's sort of like, it's just nice to talk it out. It's just nice to talk it out. So this is one of it, like a really important tool around self-nurturing, around self-parenting, and allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to be held by somebody else while you go through something that feels difficult. And it can be the smallest of things. I just, like how I was saying, I used to find it really difficult and really painful to say no to people. If somebody had invited me somewhere, I used to find it really painful to say no because I was just anticipating that somehow they were going to shame me, or they wouldn't like me, or they're going to do something. They're going to do something or say something really horrible to me because I didn't want to do what the expectation was. That's essentially what codependency is. Codependency is, when you kind of abandon yourself because of the other person. You abandon yourself because of the other person. You're not putting your own needs first. You're putting the other person's expectation first. And that comes from, in my situation, a lifetime of neglect and, not honouring myself and not being seen, not being heard, and that can be, within my family unit as well as, in society as a black woman. The more invisible you feel, the more difficult it is for you to start that process of learning how to say yes to yourself. And it takes practice. It takes practice. So, the whole thing around positioning yourself to say the yes is a really, really important part of the process. Really important part of the process, especially in the beginning, because you're going to need that support to say yes to yourself, The next one, number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, is to prepare. Prepare yourself for what may happen when you've actually said the no to the other person or the yes to yourself. Now, one of the most important, I've kind of shared a little bit about that in the positioning bit, but something else that we call in recovery, we say in recovery, is like you get an afterburn after you say no to somebody, kind of like emotional afterburn. Now, emotional afterburn is like when you feel guilty or you feel bad or it feels painful. Oh, what do they think of me? Are they going to say something else? Are they going to cuss me off? Are they going to shame me? It's all of that negative thinking, comes into your head after you've said that you've said the no. You've said the no to that person so you can say yes to yourself. But because the part of you is still attached to what that person thinks or what that person feels, those feelings of, oh my God, I'm letting that person down, or they're going to think really bad of me. That's, that afterburn, it kind of stings a little bit, especially when you first do it the first few times, so you have to kind of prepare yourself in a way to, that person might not even react that way, but this might all just be going on in your head. But to actually prepare yourself for that, which is why the bookending process is important, because then you can talk out the afterburn. Yeah, you can talk out the afterburn to make sure that just to process whatever comes up, how you feel, not about what the other person done or said, but how you feel, because ultimately you can't control how the other person is going to react when you say no to them. You can't control that, but you can control, your process, and you can take care of your emotional needs in that process, which is really important, because this is all part of saying yes to yourself. There's a transition that happens when you start saying no to other people and yes to yourself. And it's not, people always so quick to say, oh, well, you can just say no, but it's not as simple as that. It's not as simple as that, which is why I wanted to take the time in this live to kind of really break it down in small pieces, and to have you sort of understand why saying no feels so painful and why it feels so hard, and to be gentle with yourself around it. Be gentle with yourself around it. And that's number 5, is to be patient. Be patient with yourself when you're learning to say yes to yourself, because if you're not used to it, if you're used to, being deprived of things, if you're used to the no, like what I was saying earlier, then it's going to take time for you to learn to receive the yes, to accept the yes, and to kind of sit through the feelings to sit through the afterburn, because the afterburn is the most vulnerable time during that period, when you might go back and go, oh, right then, I'll do it. You might weaken and go, but you have to do your bookend call afterwards, so that that person can also hold you accountable and kind of hold you through the, oh, I might get, maybe I've done the wrong thing, and maybe I should go back and say something else. You don't need to do any of that. You don't need to do any of that. Because, you will understand that afterburn is just old behavior. It's just old behavior. So you guys are laughing at me. You ladies laughing at me. It's part of the process of learning how to change that behavior, and if you can sit with the feelings in the afterburn and find somebody to work through that afterburn stuff with you, then you'll be fine. And trust me, the afterburn gets less. Another thing that happens, around, when you need to be patient and all the rest of it, and also going through the afterburn, is that, you might feel like you need to go back to the person to start explaining yourself, and, over kind of like saying why you're saying that. You don't need to do any of that. That is just more afterburn, guilt-ridden behavior. And you don't need to do that, because at the end of the day, you are precious, and your needs matter. Your needs matter. You are precious, and your needs matter. So you don't need to be over explaining, and I've done all that as well before, or feeling like you have to sort of dramatize stuff to make it worse than it actually is, because to make the other person understand why you're saying no and all of that. You don't need to do all of that. You don't need to do all of that. Just know, understand, and accept that, it's all going to be intellectual at first, because it's going to take time. As I was saying before, you need patience. You're going to need patience to kind of give yourself permission to just sit with those feelings, sit with those feelings, and don't go back on your decision. Let me see what Howard's saying. I backpedal my decision, making 75% of my time. I'm going to listen to this feed a few times so it's ingrained in my mind. Lord, listen, the only reason why I'm saying this is because I've been there. I've done it. I'm just like, I can't, and I find it so painful to sit with the feelings of the afterburn. So I go, oh, all right. And then you know what happens? I change my mind, and then I start hating myself. Like, what'd you do that for? You didn't want to go. Why did you give in? Why are you letting that person, you don't want to go. And then what happens is you end up going to the event or doing what the other person wants, and you feel resentful. You feel resentful towards him or her, and you feel resentful towards yourself. And then it just becomes a negative cycle of just self-hate and just negative. It's just ugly. I have so been there, Howard. It's not, it's not pleasant. It's really hard. But just like I was saying before, if you can sit with the afterburn. Sit with the afterburn, yeah, and bookend with somebody. Bookend with somebody that understands, bookend with somebody that understands, so that you're not in that place where it just becomes really hard. So you don't pick up the phone and go, all right, don't do that. Don't do that, okay? Don't do that. You don't need to do that. I'm giving you permission to stick with the afterburn. Stick with the afterburn. Don't give in to that person, because it's just gonna, yeah, it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant. And you're gonna be back to square one. And also that person that's sort of trying to twist your arm to stay in there is gonna learn that they can they've only got to sort of sweet talk you and just keep going on at you, and you'll give in to them. You'll give in to them and just give them what they want. But it's not really what you want to do. But if they're that type of person where they don't really care what you want, they just want what they want, they're just going to keep doing it because they know they can get away with it. They're going to keep doing it because they know you get away with it. And then you're going to feel like you're going to feel like, you're not respected. You're going to feel disrespected. And it's so hard, because at the end of the day, we've got to practice how to show up for ourselves. And then we teach other people how to treat us. But when you're codependent, it's hard. It's really, really hard to say no, and then kind of and stand in the no. Stand in the no to them, and stand in the yes. Actually, it's not about saying no to them. It's about standing in the yes. It's about changing the mindset. And that's why this broadcast is titled "How to Say Yes to Yourself." It's not how to say no. It's not how to say no, because when you change the energy and say, this is about how to say yes to yourself, it changes the energy of the conversation. Because it's got nothing to do with anybody else. This is about you being able to stand in your yes, and standing in the fact that you have needs. And it's about self-parenting and self-nurturing and being your own ally. That's what this conversation is about. It's about being your own ally. So it's not about saying no, it's about saying yes. When you realise that it's about saying yes to you, it's going to get easier for you to say the no to other people. Because it's not about them, it's about you. It's about you. So the last thing, which is number 6, is peace. The last P is peace. Oh my God, I cannot tell you what happens. I cannot explain to you the peace that you feel after a certain amount of time of being consistent around saying yes to yourself. It's almost like, and let me do a really quick. I'll do a really quick diagram of this, because this is really quite powerful. And this is kind of like inner child work, yeah? This is inner child work. So, okay, so if you're inner child, yeah, and you've got this the adult here. I hope this is going to make sense. It's very primitive. Okay, so can you see that? Yeah, can you see that? So what happens is, when you're used to saying no a lot, your inner child, yeah, is going to feel disconnected. It's going to feel disconnected from the adult part of you, because it's always a no. Yeah? So when even though you're an adult, when you're talking to other grown-ups and you don't want to do other things, you're talking to other adults about stuff, you're going to retreat into that little child that's always had no thrown back at her. Yeah? When you start saying yes to yourself, you also say yes to your inner child. And that's why I know for me, that's when I started feeling really, really happy about saying yes to myself, because my inner child was happier. Because a lot of times, when I said no to when I abandoned myself, my inner child she gets upset and she gets angry, and sometimes she'll retreat. So there's that separation between my inner child and my adult self, which becomes separated. But when I start saying yes to myself, that love, that starts to come between the adult and your inner child, that starts to grow, because your inner child, your inner child starts to trust your adult. Am I making sense? Drop some emojis or something in the comments just to let me know that you understand what I'm saying. I'll break it down a bit more if you understand what I mean. But so the relationship between the inner child and your adult self, that starts to mature. That starts to mature, and it's that intimacy starts to bond, because ultimately that's how you start to grow up a lot more emotionally when you're oh, thank you for the heart. So that's great. So you're understanding that. When you start to say yes to yourself, you say yes to your inner child. And a lot of times, the reasons why a lot of us are so wounded is because our inner children have not been heard. Our inner child is wounded. Our inner child has not had the chance to express itself in any way. And us as adults, I know for me, I continued that abandonment of my inner child because I didn't know how to take care of my inner child. So when I started saying yes to me, I also started saying that it's the adult part of me that had to say yes to me so that I could say yes to my inner child. My inner child is often the gauge around how I feel about certain things. Just remember that. Your inner child is actually the closest thing to God. I'm going to say that again. Your inner child is actually the closest thing to God. So when our inner child is wounded, when our inner child is wounded, it quite often means that, we are disconnected from our divinity. We're disconnected from our divinity. So to be able to reconnect that part of ourselves is really, really important. And, when we start to reconnect that adult part of ourselves with the wounded inner child, things are really going to start to change. Things are really going to start to change. And when we start to trust ourselves, by building that adult-child relationship within us, then we find it easier to set boundaries around other people, and we find it easier to trust other people that are trustworthy, because then that inner adult becomes like a lion. The inner adult comes like a lion. Like my inner adult is so much more aware now around people that I find shady or people that are a bit creepy. There's kind of like a radar that happens, and that's my inner child, and that's my inner child kind of communicating with my adult to say what feels safe and what doesn't feel safe. When you're used to always being in situations where you're always told no, you don't really know what your yes is. It's hard to kind of that kind of GPS stuff is really, it's not functioning on all cylinders, if that makes sense, because that you've not had the opportunity to build that intuition through trust. If you've not learned how to trust anybody at a very young age, your emotional GPS is going to be all over the place. So, saying yes to yourself, that process is really, really important for rebuilding that whole thing around trust. Does that make sense? Yeah, I hope that makes sense to people. So that whole yes thing is so much bigger than, oh, I don't want to go and eat dinner around my auntie's house or whatever. It's so much of a bigger conversation than that. Because I know for a lot of us, we were, raised in environments where, we weren't allowed to have an opinion. We weren't allowed to say no. We weren't allowed to say yes to ourselves, because it was always about, what other family members wanted or whatever. So we don't understand what it means to say yes to ourselves, because our lives have been about, making sure that we don't get in trouble. We make fear-based decisions based on what the other person wants, or what white people want, or, all that kind of stuff. Everywhere we go, we've been told no to being ourselves, yeah, so it's just not, it's not good for us to be in that situation. It's not healthy for us to be in that situation. But yeah, I mean, these 5 steps have been really, 6 steps actually, have been really, really interesting. So let me just go through them again. So the first one is about being present, being clear about what your yes means. Is it me time? Is it specific event? Is it relationships? You know, what is it? Be clear about, be present, give yourself permission to be present to what is your yes. What does that mean? And understand, being honest with yourself about why it's hard, you know. The next thing is to plan your yes. What is it you actually want to do? What is it you want to do? And what are, you know, is there a list of things that you need to do to get the yes? You know, are there steps that you need to take? If it's a relationship, do you need to, you know, do you need to spend less time with them? Do you need to talk to them? You know, do you need to not see them at all if they're, you know, being disrespectful or whatever? You know, plan what you need to do around that yes. Number 3 is position. Position yourself to say the yes and get support. You know, if you're used to being deprived, then it's going to be hard to ask for help. But you have to position yourself for the yes, because if you're not used to saying yes, it's gonna sting a little bit. It's gonna sting. So get someone who can support you, who can be accountable to you, you can be accountable to them around your yes, who can give you some loving support around it. Next one, number 4, is to prepare. So bookend. Phone someone before you say no to them, and talk to somebody after you say no to them. So that in between, you know that you're held through that process, so you don't kind of weaken in the afterburn. You don't weaken in the afterburn, section of the call after you've already said the no to them, you know. And be patient. Number 5, be patient. It takes practice to say yes to yourself, especially if you're not used to it. You know, you need a lot of patience, because there are going to be times when, you know, the no, for me, the no is always the default. No is always the default, and I have to remember, I can say yes to myself. It's all right. I can say no, you know, because sometimes a lot of this stuff is internal as well. It's not always external. It's not always external what other people do and say. A lot of times I've internalized so much of that stuff that I actually say no to myself a lot. So if no is my default, I've got to remember that I have to change that mindset, and remember that I have to say yes to myself, if that makes sense, and not just thinking that it's about the other person. So just remember that. And the last one, number 6, is peace. The last P is peace. So, you know, enjoy the serenity of the yes. Once you've done it a few times, you'll start to feel so much more sober in yourself. You'll start to feel, you know, a kind of a new feeling of self-love. When you start saying yes to yourself, there's something happens when you start saying yes to yourself. You start feeling more confident, you got more self-esteem, and it just feels easier. It just feels easier. And I've got sometimes I have the odd day where I just think, oh no, I don't really want to say no to that person, but most of the time it's all right. It's all right. And you know, and I've become less and less detached by what the other person's expectation is, because at the end of the day, if it really doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for me, and that's it. It doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for me, and that's it. You know, that's it. And they're just gonna have to deal with it. So the last thing that I wanted to share with you is I actually wrote a poem about saying yes to yourself, and I want to read it to you. I wonder if I can find it. Hang on a minute. Oh, here it is. I just thought it would be nice to share with you. And I forgot to add in the whatchamacallits today, in the housekeeping, that I've actually created, there's now a Sister Circle starter kit. So those of you that have been to the workshops, and this poem is actually in there, that's why it's kind of triggered my thinking. Those of you that have been to the workshops, you know, all of the characteristics and the tools and the signs of sacred self-love and all of that kind of stuff, that is all now in a little 20-page booklet, ebook. So you can now get that. So if you go to heal.juneallen.net, it will take you to the Sister Circle page, and you'll find it on there. So where's this poem? Hang on a minute. Where is it? It's right down, but it's the last one. Is it that one? Oh yeah, here we go. So, say yes. How many times a day do you say no to yourself? You deny your joy. your peace, your black serenity. Many of us are so used to deprivation, we don't know what yes feels like. No to feelings, no to sharing, no to being. As we heal, we learn that saying no to our needs is how we survive. We keep the peace, avoid conflict, and hide the pain of abandonment from dysfunctional caregivers and racist institutions. In time, we learn to wear our fearless yes. The yes that takes us deep into ourselves, that requires vulnerability, compassion, and wins victories. Today, when I feel the need to deny myself, I will remember to stand up straight in the serenity of my unapologetic yes. Do you like that? Yeah. I really like that. So yeah, I've added that into the Sister Circle starter kit, just as like some extra bonuses. So yeah, so has anybody got any questions or anything about anything that I've shared tonight? Anything about the saying yes or the codependency stuff? Anybody got any questions or anything? I haven't seen any comments in the YouTube feed. Let's have a look. No one. Anybody got any comments on the YouTube live? Anybody at all? Before I hop off. But I'm going to be, just remember that I'm going to be doing lives every for the rest of the week now, up until my birthday on Tuesday as well. So there's loads of things that I want to share with you all. So if you haven't done already, you know, make sure that your notifications are switched on. Let's have a look. So Howard's put, June, what can I say that hasn't already been stated? You really bring these topics to the forefront with delicacy, compassion, love, motivation, and conceptualization. I'm so grateful you are badass. Oh, Howard, don't let me go into the ugly cry today. I went into the ugly cry the other day. I thought, oh, my ladies, it's so lovely. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much, Howard. I'm just glad, you know, I'm just really, really glad that, you know, that you sort of understand it. Let's have a look. Came in late, we'll have to listen to the replay. Listen, even if you've got any other questions or whatever, just talking to the lady on, thank you so much for joining. If you've got any other questions or whatever, you can just put them in the comments and I will definitely respond. If there's anything else that you want me to share in the lives, then just drop it in the comments as well, and I can, you know, I'll add them to the lives and stuff. So thank you so much for joining me, ladies, and welcome to the ladies that have joined that don't know me. But yeah, just watch the replays, and I've gone live on YouTube today, and I've made it public, so there's some new ladies on there. So welcome to all the new ladies who joined me today. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I don't take for granted the fact that you you know, that you spend time with me. If you know somebody who would benefit from this broadcast, then you can share it with them. Share it with your auntie, share it with your mom, share it with your sisters, share it with your church folks, share it with your hobby people, share it with your friends, share it with anybody who you know that you think can benefit from this. And yeah, turn on your notifications so you can you know, so you know when I'm going live next time. So thank you so much for joining me. If you've got any other questions or anything, you can email me at info@yardofgreatness.com. Click the link in the bio if you want any more information about the birthday event or the workshops or anything like that. That's heal.juneallen.net. So your sister in service is now signing off. So I will see you soon. Lady on the I don't know if I pronounced your name correctly. I will be on roughly around the same time. It's normally around sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock. I normally go live. So yeah, if you click the notifications, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, we should tell you when I'm live anyway. Or if you sign up to any of the stuff on my website, I normally send emails out when I'm going live anyway. So I will speak to you all tomorrow, ladies. Take care. Bye bye.